What's up, guys? Darkdally here. Now, normally I'm known for doing gaming footage and things like that, but we did announce earlier that we'd be doing some podcast things like we're doing right now. Welcome to our podcast. Now, we kind of intended this to be me and Scout, but he's not here right now. He's at work. So we're doing this first podcast solo. What's up, guys? I'm Darkdally, and I want to do a little podcast on, well, it's something that's just been weighing on my mind a lot lately, and it's in the title of the video, so you already know. Life after the military. It's going to be, okay, first of all, it's going to be different for everyone. It's going to be different for everyone. But it's something that's weighed a lot on me in certain ways and does other people in different ways. And I consider this good advice, not only maybe something that people who've been in the military can relate to, but maybe younger people who want to go in the military, maybe and hopefully this will inspire them to pursue a career there because that's what I should have done. Okay, I'm trying to smoke a cigarette while I'm talking to you guys. Hey, this is a podcast. This is candid. I'm trying to smoke a cigarette and talk to you guys, all right? So let's start at we'll try to keep this a little bit shortish. So I joined the Marine Corps. Why did I join the Marines? Well, straight out of high school, I didn't have any good job options. I was working at McDonald's. It was dead end. At least it seemed that way to me. It wasn't exciting enough, I guess you could say, for me. So I called all the recruiters, all the major ones. I called Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. I called the four main branches. I called the recruiters and left a message one night and figured I'll just join the first one that calls me back. Well, big surprise. The first one that called me back was the Marines. And it turns out that was the right fit for me. You see, I'm a thrill seeker. I'm an adrenaline junkie. You can see that right there. I didn't care. I just wanted to do something new and different. And so it was like fate that the Marine Corps called me back. Now, that's not a slight against any other branch, but come on, right? So I ended up joining the Marine Corps. Now, we're talking back in the late 90s. That's when this was, right? We're talking late 90s. Things were probably a lot different than they are now. I'm quite sure things are different now than they were then. We were I'd like to think we were a lot rougher back then, but who knows? I don't know. I got out. We'll talk about when I got out and that kind of stuff. And what we're talking about is life after the Corps, life after military service, etc. All right, so that's how I joined. It was just like, again, sorry for the noise. Yeah, I'm just grabbing a smoke here, chatting with you guys. Little FDR style fireside chat. So, I guess now they call it a podcast, right? So, yeah, I'm so out of touch with technology. A lot of the reasons the way I am is I do put on my experiences in the service. And not everyone's going to come out with the same thing. A lot of, like I went in, actually, I had a really technical MOS. I worked on radios, and I came out with a lot of electronics knowledge, which helped me in a further career. I'll get there. But for some reason, I also came out, I think this was just Marine Corps bravado. I also came out with a lot of just fuck it, kind of attitude. Just fuck it, I'll fix it later, because Marines can deal with anything. And yeah, I'm gonna pump up the Marine Corps here a little bit because that's the branch I was in, and we're a bunch of dickheads, leathernecks, jarheads, crayon eaters, whatever you want to call us. Yeah, pretty much sums us up. We're all full of bravado and badassness and whatever you want to say. It's pretty much all true, right? So I didn't know that though. So I'm some wimpy ass 18-year-old kid joining the Marines. And by the way, if you're thinking to do so, hoorah. Do it, brother. Do it. Best experience of my life. The problem is, okay, so let's skip to afterwards, and then we'll go back to some of the stuff during. Afterwards, so I got kicked out. Some people serve several, terms of service, and then they retire. Some people just serve their original TOS. Some people, like me, I got kicked out. And we'll get to that. So I got kicked out I enlisted in the late 90s. I got kicked out right before, I got kicked out in early 2001. And, hang on, cigarette. It wasn't dishonorable. Don't get me wrong. I had a discharge under other than honorable conditions. I'll get to that. So it's not like it was dishonorable. I was, whatever, discharged from the Marine Corps. I was just separated from them, basically. And it was pre 9/11. And adjusting back to civilian life. So that's where we're going here. Adjusting back to civilian life was very difficult. Well, not very difficult. It was just, I found myself being very strange at first. When I first got out, it's like, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain it, actually. I adhered to all of the same things I was used to do. Like I made my bed properly every day. I kept my hair fucking cut nice and straight, and I kept everything. I never wore a cover. I never wore a hat indoors. I never ate food while I was walking. I kept everything straight, just like if I was, on deck, like proper at first, but then that kind of stuff fades. But there's a lot of things that stick with you, and it's the things that they instill within you in the training, and those things never leave you. It's no secret that when you join boot camp, as they say, they break you down and then they build you up. It's no secret. To make a good army, you need to, or a good military, to make a good military force, you need to break them down and build them up. Yeah, you need to, I don't want to use the term brainwash. I guess I just did, but you really need to, well, they do. They train you to kill. Let's just put it simply. They train you to kill, right? And in fact, at least in my experience, in my training, we had basically 3 affirmative answers to a command from a drill instructor. And that was either yes, sir, aye, sir, or kill. They tell us to do something and we chant kill. They like trained us to chant the word kill, kill, kill. That's not bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's bad. It's not bad. And again, also, I'm talking 20 years ago. I don't know how it is now in the Marines. It's not bad. But when you transition back to civilian life, things are a bit different. For instance, okay, how about this? When I went into the Marines, I could barely do 3 pull-ups. They require you to do 3 pull-ups. I could barely do the 3 required pull-ups to get, into the Marines. And I was your typical pasty-faced, wide-eyed, scared 18-year-old. In fact, my first, or I should say my second, because you don't get any sleep the first night, so I should say my second night there, I do recall crying because I was away from home. I'm pretty sure I'm not alone there. I mean, you're 18 years old. It's the first time you've ever been away from home. You're surrounded in a hostile environment, and you're woken up at 3 a.m. for fire watch while you're still in boot camp and you haven't slept in 2 days. Yeah, I remember crying, wishing I was home. I was like, I want my mommy, kind of thing. And so there was that. Now, I know I'm kind of skipping around on time here. That's okay. We'll patch the timeline together. Fast forward 13 weeks later, I'm on deck for graduation, and we are cut out of steel. Like, we are sunburnt, chiseled. Most of us have dropped like 2 sizes in our clothing, We've lost weight. We're all muscle, steel, just, yeah, definitely sunburnt, and ready to rock. And at that time, I look back, there's a time, and at least in the Marine Corps, I can't speak for any of the other branches. There's a time in the Marine Corps where after the Crucible and all that shit that everyone knows about, we go back to the well, for me it was MCRD San Diego, so we go back to the base for the last week, and that's when we're like, yeah, we're on deck for graduation, and we're kicking it there. We got the last week. We're now officially Marines. Like, for instance, we don't we no longer call our drill instructors sir. We call them sergeant, staff sergeant, whatever their rank is. We're now Marines, and they refer to us as private or, PFC or whatever. We're now actual Marines. They can't make us do push-ups anymore. But we're treated equally by that same fashion. There's other things they can do. I'll just leave that aside. There's other things they can do. But now we're devil dogs, right? And so we come back for the last week. And during that last week, and now we're all like decked out, right? We got our fucking woolly pulleys, our blouses. I got my name sewn on my fucking blouse, and I got the EGA stamped on my my left breast pocket. And you got your boots blouse, and you're all special, and you see the new recruits coming in. This is my point. You see the new recruits coming in, and they're these pasty-faced, like, poor, chubby little motherfuckers. But here's the thing. I think to myself, 13 weeks ago, that was me. That was me 13 weeks ago. That was all of us. And I look at all of us, and even though all we'd done is training, we hadn't even been deployed yet. We hadn't even been at the fleet yet. We just been through training, and we look back and we see these kids. This podcast is about life after the military, and in order to do that, I need to talk about some of the transitioning that went during that time to explain the rough transition afterwards. So, just in those first 13 weeks, we come back. And there's all these fat, they all looked so fat and pasty and just pale and scared, to be quite honest. And I think that was me now only 13 weeks ago. That was just the first, bit of it. They transition you. You transition, you change into a different person. You adapt an alternate state of mind about everything in life. About everything, like something breaks, you're like, fuck it, I'll fix it. Even if you don't know how to fix it, you're like, I'll figure it out. I'll fix it. You get that improvise, adapt and overcome, or whatever they say, kind of state of mind. You really do. Because going through just the training, little problems suddenly seem just nominal and nothing. You really don't worry about the small shit anymore. Now, this is my experience. Some people join the military for different reasons, right? Some people join because they want to go to college. For instance, there's some people who join the Army because they want 4 years of college. So they join the Army, but then they get sucked into aviation or something, and next thing you know, they spend the next 8 years flying a helicopter or some shit like that, and they get sucked into it. Some people join for one reason, and they end up getting sucked into one particular MOS, and it just becomes their life. I joined, quite frankly, the MOS I joined up for was I wanted to be an EOD. I wanted to do that. I wanted to blow shit up, to be quite honest, but I ended up, as many people did, I ended up with a different MOS. I ended up working on electronics, and so I was a pogue. So I was a pogue. Disclaimer, I never did anything cool in the military. I'm no kind of operator. I was never an O3. I never did anything cool like that. I was just a pogue. Yeah, no, I never admit to doing anything cool. I have no cool stories, no cool blah, blah, blah. Let's just get that out of the way. But like so many people, I got sucked into doing something else, which no matter what you do, it changes the rest of your life. And then, so let's fast forward again. For me, I got kicked out. Some people just serve one TOS and they get out. Some people decide to make it a career, and everyone does their own thing. For me, I got kicked out, and I got kicked out because of crimes that had been committed. So I had a bit of a rude awakening, because I went straight from, now this is my story of how difficult it was transitioning to civilian life. I went from this rigid, structured Like everything was rigid and structured. Like when we're getting ready to go out on whatever, and my buddies, like we're in the barracks. My buddy, at the time we didn't have plate carriers. We were wearing LBVs at the time. My buddy throws his LBV on, and I just automatically step up behind him and buckle it and strap it on for him. And the same with the flak vest and everything else. And my buddy behind me has got me. He's buckling my shit behind me. You don't even ask. You just, there's this thing. It's like, let's get geared up. Okay, we throw on our shit, and you just immediately walk to the guy in front of you. You start buckling their shit and strapping it on, and you slap him on the shoulder. You're good, and the guy behind you is doing the same for you. I transitioned directly, not me personally, I transitioned directly from the military to prison, right? So then to civilian life. So maybe that was actually easier. I don't know. That's a bit of a difficult one. I mean, I'm just being honest with you guys, being candid and honest. So I went directly from the military to prison, and then to civilian life. So I was a bit of a misfit in after the military. I was a bit of a misfit because the guys in jail, they weren't disciplined whatsoever, and I was extremely regimented. And I had just, when they arrested me, I was literally still wearing my BDUs when they arrested me. I mean, like, I was still in the life, and now I'm in this other place, and I had to adjust to that. But that wasn't as big an adjustment as it was to civilian life when I got out. Then it's civilian life, and it was about mid-year 2000, or I'm sorry, mid-2001, sorry. And so I didn't really know what to do. So I got a job at Taco Bell, but I wasn't any good at it. None of my skills applied. I wasn't any good at it. And, I was. I was quick on a cash register. I was quick with that kind of shit, and I had a good radio voice for the drive-thru, I guess. But I wasn't any good at fitting in with people or anything. And then, okay, so now, so then 9/11 happens. All right, so, and I still, I remember that morning. I at the time I was still staying at my parents' house. I'd only been out for a couple months. I didn't get a place of my own yet. Still staying with my parents after that whole ordeal. My mom woke me up in the morning at 9/11, when, with the planes are hitting the towers and crap. And my first thought was, join back up with the military. Because, look, here's the point. Like, when I got out of high school, I was just a normal guy, normal kid, could have done anything. But the military changes your life. And in a very good way. I encourage everyone to join the military. But it changed my life. And that was my instinct. My instinct when I saw that happen was, I need to join back up. I can't live in this life. Well, it's not like boohoo, I can't, It's just, I had that need. But I knew I couldn't join back with the Marines because now I had a felony in my record. Well, a couple, I think. So I couldn't join back up with the Marines. So I thought, what's the next best choice? I thought Army. To be fair, no offense, Army guys, I should have gone Navy, but, because come on, I'm a Marine. If there's any branch that I'm even fairly friendly with, it's going to be the Navy. But I went to the Army recruiter, nevertheless. I went to the Army recruiter because I figured it was the next closest thing to what I was doing before. And I went to join back up. At the time, I was, 22? And to be fair, I could have. I didn't join. I'll skip to the ending real quick and then go back. I could have joined the Army. But I decided not to, and I'll tell you why. I went to the Army recruiter. Man, what a softball fucking pink-faced piece of shit wuss pussy that guy was. Like for real. Like, I'm not even talking shit about the Army. Okay, I am. Yeah, you guys are a bunch of pussies. But remember, this is coming from a Marine. We talk big shit, It's no harm meant. But yeah, he was a pussy, dude. Like, here's what I mean. When I joined the Marine Corps, my recruiter and he was hardcore Marine Corps all the way. We hung out. We went on recruiting things like, there's a period of time before you go to the recruiter and before you go to MEPS. There's like a period of time. For me, it was like 5 months. I had like a 5-month wait from the time I signed till the time I went to MEPS to ship out. So during that time, we went to air shows. We went on recruiting rallies. I went with him everywhere. That guy was a maniac. I'll never forget. And just by the way, shout out to Sergeant Healy. Yeah, dude, you were awesome. You were awesome. I hope you're doing well. Sergeant Healy was my recruiter. See, I still remember his name because we hung out all the time. I can recall going down I-70, 80 miles an hour in the snow. And he's got the friggin' Jeep in 4-wheel drive and like a part fell off the car. And I was like, what the fuck was that? He's like, I don't know. I think something fell off the car. That's Marine Corps, right? We're like, fuck, I don't know. Why was he going 80 miles an hour in the snow? I don't know. I don't remember exactly, but the guy was a maniac, dude. We had fun. We hung out. We did all kinds of shit together. We got other Marines to join. Here's the point, guys. I got a little jazzed up there, but I got a little oorah on you guys there. When I went to the Army recruiter after 9/11, I went to the Army recruiter, and it's like he didn't even care. It's like he didn't even give a shit. And I was I wasn't sure I could even join because by that time, well, I had a criminal record, but I didn't think it was going to be a big deal for the Army because they don't have the standards the Marine Corps has. I had several tattoos by then. Again, the Marine Corps would not have allowed that, but I don't think the Army would have cared. I brought that up to him. I was like, well, I have some visible tattoos on my arms. The reason I say that is because when you're stationed in some other countries, they're not so friendly to visible tattoos, especially like Islamic countries. They're really not friendly to visible tattoos. And in the Marine Corps, it's a thing because Marine Corps are typically, embassy guards and things like that. And you got to look really nice and clean and proper, things like that. And again, see, I was thinking in the Marine Corps state of mind. I wasn't thinking like, whatever. The point is, the Army guy really just didn't seem to care. He didn't seem to care. He was like, okay, sign here, sign here, sign here. And I was like, okay. And he's like, okay, we'll call you back. Or you call us or whatever, And I never called them back. There was a complete lack of enthusiasm. This does lead into the topic of this podcast. There was a complete lack of enthusiasm there. And I couldn't deal with that. Like there was one time when I was in the Marines, I was stationed at 29 Palms. One of the guys in our barracks, I've told this story before to some of my friends. There's just one guy in Bravo Company with me, and we found out he was secretly listening to soft, easy listening music, and he was throwing the CD cases away in the trash so that no one would know what he was listening to. But we found the CD cases, and we gave him a blanket party. We beat the living crap out of him just for listening to soft music. I came from a thing where Marines are just hardcore all the way, like everything we do. And I go to this recruiter. I'm going to have another cigarette with you guys here. I'm going to light another cigarette. And then I go to this where they're like, they don't even care. Like when I was joining the Marines, this sounds like an art. This is not an I'm just a Marine, so I'm going to be a little bit gung-ho, okay? So just bear with me. When I was joining the Marines, let me light this cigarette. I had two recruiters. There was my main recruiter was Sergeant Healy. Then there was a staff sergeant. Oh, I forget his name. Sorry, dude. I forget his name. But, see, so Sergeant Healy was in Montrose, Colorado, which was, that was like 100 miles from my house. But the main recruiting office was in Grand Junction. And that was like another 60 miles. So we're talking like 160 miles away from my house is where the main recruiting office was. That was like where the main dilly bapper was. And it was Staff Sergeant. I forget his name, but I'll never forget him. And while we were doing the first like first level of entry processing crap. He actually let me stay at his house. I actually stayed at his house a couple of nights. I remember we actually went to the military surplus store there in Grand Junction, and I forget why or what we got or whatever. I forget why. I just remember going there with him, and I also remember staying at his house, and he had like a straight up a cot, and I slept on a cot in his living room. I slept on a cot in my recruiter's living room for like a night or two while we were doing the entry processing crap. Right? So now you can understand. Like, that's how cool these guys were. They would do anything to get you in because they were gung-ho. And then I go to the Army and they're like, meh. They didn't care, so that's why I didn't call them back, right? So I made a potentially short story pretty long. So I decided not to. Now, this is much later. Now I'm finding myself on the edge of 40. And it's like there's still that missing part of me. I mean, I got kicked out of the Marines. Let's just say military. I don't mean to make this about the Marines, okay? You join whatever branch you want. In fact, I would say the Navy is perfectly respectable. That's about it. Marines or Navy, pretty, yeah. Right. So now we're looking down, like almost, we're looking down. When did I get discharged? 2001. So we're looking like 18 years later. I'm almost 40 years old now. And I find myself not succeeding in normal life. And this is something that's not uncommon with a lot of people who've been in the military, just not succeeding in normal life because nothing lives up to my expectations. Nothing is thrilling enough. Nothing is cool enough. People are trying to control me, but not in the way I'm used to being controlled. Like don't get me wrong, when I was in the military, I was used to being told what to do, what to wear, and everything all the time. It was never an issue because it was all like important. Your life depended on, depends when you're in the military, your life depends on everything. And like this video, this podcast, it's about transitioning. So I'll tell you this, I'll still remember to this day, the best meal I ever had in my life was an MRE. I was out doing a scouting thing, and I was actually out by myself on top of a mountain, and I had an MRE. It was Thai chicken or something like that. It was something like that. I can't believe it. I just can't recall it right now, okay? But it was like Thai chicken or Thai pork or something like that. I'll remember it once I finish this podcast. I'll remember what it was. It doesn't matter. The point is, that was the best, most memorable meal of my life. And you may say to yourself, it was an MRE. Yeah, but you're completely alone on top of a mountain. I was 1,000 feet above sea level, which where I was, that was like the highest mountain around because we were on the coast. And there was no one within sight. I was completely by myself on this particular bit here. Completely by yourself. In the middle of nowhere. I just had a map and a compass to fucking get where I was. I know nowadays you guys have fucking Androids and shit like that, but all I had was a map and a compass. Sit down on a rock, you drop your fucking pack down, you pull out that fucking Thai chicken or whatever the hell it was, and that was the best meal ever, most memorable meal of my life. It was just beautiful and epic, and for like 15 minutes, yeah. And then I had to navigate my way back down. Right. Translate that to, so then now we're going back to civilian life. I tried joining the Army. That really didn't work out for me. We're transitioning, so we're fast forwarding to nowadays. I'm about to be 40 years old. And I still need that back. And that's one way that I've not been able to fully transition back into civilian life. And I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. I know I'm not alone here. Now, everyone takes their own experience their own way, right? Like, for real. Like everyone takes their own experience their own way. Me, I have a rule, and all my friends know this. I don't talk about bad stuff. Some people, have PTSD dogs. or whatever. Some people brag about all kinds of stuff. Everyone handles everything their own way. But for whatever reason, it's always hard to transition back to civilian life. You know what that reminds me of? There's this scene at the very beginning of the movie Triple Frontier. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you watch it. There's this scene at the very beginning of Triple Frontier, and the guy from Sons of Anarchy, what's his name? The blonde guy with the long hair, the Australian dude. Right, yeah, Jax from Sons of Anarchy. And I think he's Australian, whatever, it doesn't matter. Right. So he's given this speech to, one sec, guys, my cigarette went out. These fucking fire safety things nowadays. And he's given this speech to guys who are getting out about re-entering civilian life. And he's given them this speech. And he's telling them, to beware of military contractors, this and that. And he's telling them about this story about how he found himself one day just snapping into rage in the cereal aisle in the grocery store with his hands around some guy's neck. Okay, look, again, like I said, that's what I mean. Everyone has their own experience. I never had anything like that. I never had anything like that happen. If you guys have seen Triple Frontier, you know what I'm talking about. The story he tells where he's like, yeah, I never had anything like that happen. But at the same time, I never did fully transition. And so let's move on to the thing here is that, hang on, cigarette, guys. These things go out if you don't suck on them. Right. So for me, it was always just a need to, I don't know, do something, go back. Not that civilian life is, no, it is. Civilian life is boring and it's friggin', I find myself sometimes like, what the heck am I doing, And I do something interesting. I play video games. That sounds interesting, right? But it's more interesting than some things, I guess, but it's not. I've thought more than once of still rejoining. When I was in boot camp, back in the 90s, there was a guy in my platoon. Let's see, I'm trying to think. What was my platoon? Hang on. I was in MCRD San Diego. It would have been 1999, thereabouts. And I was in Golf Company platoon 3127, 3140. I'm pretty sure I was Golf Company 3127. I'm just putting that out there because I'm just trying to remember. And there was a guy in my platoon in boot camp. He was 36. I mean, I'm too old to enter the Marines, but they have higher standards. I could probably join the Army or something, even at my level, at my age, if I get a little more in shape. But I'll tell you this: our platoon consisted of 70 some guys, and we were all between the ages of 18 and 20, and we were lean and mean. And this guy was he was the laughing stock of the platoon. No offense if you're listening to this dude. Yeah, he was the laughing stock of the platoon. I don't want to be that guy, dude, because we were all half his age. And I know that I can't go back to boot camp. I can't compete with 18-year-olds. I've looked at contracting and volunteering overseas, even as recent as last year, as recent as this year, actually. I've still looked at volunteering overseas for certain things. And, but I know it's no. I can't compete with these guys, dude. It's what can I do? So transitioning from military life to civilian life, now that I've taken up about 35 minutes of your time thereabouts, hopefully I've made it interesting. My recommendation is that everyone should join the military. I mean, yeah, it's good for you. But if you do, stay in. Now, for me, it wasn't a choice, but it's because I made some bad decisions, which I made reference to earlier. I made some bad decisions, and it was not my choice. I got kicked out. But if you have the chance, stay in. Stay in. Build a family or whatever you want to do while you're there, and then you have something to transition back to. I didn't have anything to fall back onto. I was a single guy. with nothing to lose. I just wanted to blow shit up. I got kicked out, sent to prison, and then bam, I'm back staying at my parents' house. Granted, that was a long time ago. Yeah, but I've still been trying to transition ever since. After I got out of the Marines, I worked in restaurants for a while, and then I was a mechanic for a while, which actually made more sense for me because fixing shit just makes sense because you do that every day in the military. You fix shit. You fix shit every day in the military. Trust me, you fix shit. It doesn't matter what your MOS is, you're fixing something. I was a mechanic for a while. And then I worked at Walmart for a while. That didn't work out so well as a cashier. That didn't work out so well. So I became an overnight stalker. That actually worked out well because I was able to be alone and just fucking, bin stuff overnight. That worked out okay. But again, everyone has their own post-military experience. For me, it was alcoholism. I became a pretty rampant drunk after the military. That got me fired from a few jobs. Now, again, everyone's going to have their own experience. Not everyone deals with whatever. Like I said, some people, everyone does whatever they do. Transitioning to civilian life from the military is always something interesting and difficult. And it doesn't matter what your MOS is. Like I said, I was just a pogue. Now, a lot of people laugh at pogues, but almost dropped my cigarette. But I was a Marine pogue. I mean, we were harder than fucking Army infantry. I mean, come on. But I was nothing. I was no kind of force recon or raider or not even an O3, nothing like that. Nothing like those guys. But even still, as a Marine Corps pogue, you're still trained probably pretty rough compared to other standards. And when I got out, nothing ever seemed to work. And to be quite honest, the end of the story, let's put the cigarette out and end this story here. It's kind of a long, sad story, and a lot of veterans are going to agree with this. Some, maybe not, but a lot will. Stuff just never adds up, and there's no way to get it back. I mean, the only way to get it back is to go back in, but I can't do that now. Well, not really, not at my age. I can't expect to do anything. Like I said, I looked at volunteering overseas. It's still something that I consider on a daily basis. Volunteering to help the fight against ISIS, I could still sign up for that and go do that. I got the skills, but I know I can't keep up with those 20-year-old, 22-year-old kids who are fresh out of their first fucking term of service and they're over there. I can't keep up with them. I'd have to be in impeccable shape, and even still, I couldn't. And I asked a friend of mine. A friend of mine is my age, and he retired. He served about 18 or so years in the infantry and then retired. And he's my age. He's got a family. He's got a wife and kids, and he just is now getting out. He's transitioning out right now, actually. Well, I've been out this whole time. He's just now transitioning out. And I told him about this whole idea that I had. And he said, dude, don't do it. He said, don't do it. He said, you'll end up bleeding in a ditch, regretting your decision, wondering what you did wrong. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. I've still got, and that's the thing, is the esprit de corps, the whatever you call it, it never leaves you. And that's what makes civilian life hard, is that never leaves you. But your ability to maintain, your ability to keep up with that kind of shit does. And it makes civilian life hard. Those of you who agree or have any kind of comments on that, feel free to comment below. Guys, thanks so much for your time. If you've listened this long, this is the first of our podcasts. I did intend to have my good friend Scout here with me, but he's at work right now, and I decided to do this first podcast on my own. I hope you guys find this entertaining. I had no outline, I had no script, but I had a thought form of kind of what I wanted to go off of. Guys, we still plan to do the regular content we always do here, but I just wanted to throw these kind of podcasts of like insights and whatever you call them. Well, podcasts, yeah. I kind of wanted to throw this in as a weekly thing. You can always count on that. And there'll be insights into many things. Today was transitioning into civilian life, and I wasted a lot of time talking about the Marines, but I think that in itself is an insight because it's all I can think about 20 years later. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Please leave your comments and likes below, subscribe for more, and tune back in next week. I'm Darkdally. Catch you guys next time.